Hello Mirka, we're making a video for you, Papa Dog and I, and we're both saying you are infinitely precious. You're an infinitely precious angel soul, okay? And the world needs you, and we all together, we need to make the world better. We need to create something. I was crying earlier a whole lot after I got your Facebook message. That made me so sad. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what's going on. It worried me so much. You're so beautiful, Mirka. So gorgeous. You're such a gorgeous person on every level. Let's make the world a better place together. I'm not coercing anyone to do anything. Yeah. I don't force anyone to do something they don't want to do. I would never do that. I know how hard it is to exist. No one knows it as much as I do. But the world needs good people. The world needs angels. And I don't want to see an angel leave. Another angel just recently left. Important angel in my life left recently. I don't want to see another angel leave, but I'm not gonna force you or anything, but I know it's rough. But the world needs good people, We need good people. There's so much confusion in the world, and people are so utterly confused and conditioned. We need to create something amazing, We need to do something that helps, that makes the world better. And I know the possibilities are out there, They are out there, I know for sure. Breathing oxygen is very, very important. If you live in a smoke-filled, in an environment that has toxins in the air, that's not a good thing. You need to get out of there. Yes. I talked to my brother about this, okay, and I asked him if there's a way that my parents could hire you. So I'm waiting for his answer and see what he has to say to this. They're going through some major changes right now because of Barbara leaving. So this is turning things very much upside down. Just want to say I love you, and I'm very depressed right now, and I'm sad, but that's my problem, that's not your fault or anything. It's not Barbara's fault, it's not Birgit's fault. I'm just very sad. I go through What other choice do I have? We go through, we can't escape things because they don't feel good. We can't resist things. Every time people go into a resistance mode and do escapism things, there's a lot of escapism routes, like all kinds, like infinite routes of escapism that people are doing because they're not conscious. I made the conscious decision to not escape whatever is there. I live with that moment. I live with the now, with whatever goes on inside of me, whether it is depression or memories of my grandfather or Annalise, the struggle that she has gone through, and she was in so much pain she could not see or hear anything. Or the people on Facebook, that are totally insensitive, that are messaging me. Totally cut off and insensitive. They're like dead, sort of, on the inside. Gary calls them retarded, so yeah. It seems like the majority of humans are like in that state of total deadened insensitivity to someone else. There's only the predominant self-image making, self-image preservation going on, and out of this root cause of self-image preservation, like a doctor says, I'm a great doctor, here's my diploma hanging on the wall. It's a self-image. And he will go through all kinds of ordeals, stepping on other living beings, animals and humans, to preserve that self-image. They go so far to murder animals and people. So, to preserve that self-image, just so that he can preserve that self-image that he has gained in his life. And the reason why they do this is because they're shut off, they're totally unconscious and unaware and confused to what's really going on and why this is going on. And they don't see at all anymore the consequences of these things. They don't see the other anymore. They see the other as an obstacle that needs to be removed. That's what how the ego functions. And that's why there's so much of the psychopathic behavior in the world. And I hypothesize that it comes from this self-image preservation. And total unconsciousness. And also, of course, brain anatomy, of course. Brain anatomy plays a real big part of this, of course. When someone doesn't have amygdala size and mirror neurons and the ability to empathize with someone else, then how can they become alerted through some compassion if there is no compassion ability? So, but this is widely unresearched. They're still trying to figure this all out. And then And then they're doing animal tests in order to figure that out. So they're nipping themselves in the butt by doing this. The Dalai Lama and all these neuroscientists finding the compassion center in the brain while they're totally dead and uncompassionate, testing on animals while they're doing it. It's such a farce. It's unbelievable. The world is monstrous. And I don't blame anyone who doesn't want to hang around anymore. I don't blame anyone. I don't blame you at all. I totally understand you, 100%. But the world needs people like you. That's the very people that we need. I'm not forcing you, just saying that we need people like you. We need people like you, Birgit and Barbara, to be in this world. And Pamela Anderson, yeah, and many others. We need people like that. Can you imagine how the world would be if they all left? It'd be horrible. Oh, I don't know what I would do if Papa Dog leaves, I don't even want to think about this right now. I don't want to. That's beyond imagination for me. Papa Dog's my lifesaver. He's an angel soul too. And I'm a struggling indigo. The indigos, they really have it the roughest. That's for sure. That is so brutal what they go through. The face of indigo. Oh my goodness. But there's a lot of angel souls too that just at some point just can't take it anymore. I know. Once they reach God level soul, then they're also beyond suicide. Then once they reach that level, like Thich Nhat Hanh or Mirka I, then they live regardless. They don't even suffer in that sense as we do, because they don't have any more resistance. There's no more resistance happening at that level. I don't blame anyone who is at the other levels. So we are where we are, and we can only take so much according to any situation that we are in. We are where we are. I'm not at the level of Suma Qinghai or Thich Nhat Hanh or Paul Watson. I'm not at that level. I get very overwhelmed. And it comes out of an inner state of resistance. Depression is resistance. Depression is repression, and repression is resistance. When we have an inner state of resisting to something, that can be very unconscious, that state. So, my hair looks bad, sorry about that. It's a bit greasy. So yeah, when we're resisting something, like let's use Birgit as an example. I met Birgit at the center in LA, at the Primal Center with Dr. Arthur Janoff. We did primal therapy, we did the main training program. At that time, it was a training center alone because he was not, his wife had somehow sued and removed his authority to be a clinic, and I don't know exactly the details about it, but he was only allowed to declare this a training center, a training facility to educate and train psychotherapists, primal therapists in the field of primal therapy. So where we allow the emotion and we go through it and we don't resist it. It's very Buddhist, but not Buddhist oriented. So it doesn't come from Buddhism, but it has a lot of similarities to it. Arthur Janoff was an atheist, and I believe his wife is too. I'm not sure, but it was pretty stringently scientifically oriented, and the goal was to allow the body to go through what it wants to go through. And I know that in Buddhism, that is also the goal, to allow yourself to go through whatever comes up without resisting it, and breathing and allowing the body to express what it wants to express. For me, it was a pivotal phase in my life. I was already in that direction, of course, through Annalise and through my brain, even the way my brain is. I have never held back. I've always screamed my head off. And it saved my life. If I hadn't done that, I would not be here. I would definitely not be here. There'd be 100 ways I could have exited if it wasn't for this inner knowledge that if there's pain, you scream it out. Not at someone, not letting it out on someone, not be violent in any way, but you express that. For example, at the parking lot at Walmart, I came out of the dentist. Kenny was still there. Kenny was with me in that we were still in the Prius even, and it was way too small, that car, for Kenny, and it was hard on him, and he was had to sit sideways on the back bench. And I came out of the dentist's office, and that dentist didn't like me very much, and he did something to aggravate my nerves so badly after drilling into it that I was sitting there on the passenger seat, and I was in so much pain that my body had to scream. It was like death screams or something. I'm glad to say that my dog Kenny was deaf, so I would have had to use, I don't know, my jacket to scream into or something, but it was summertime, I didn't even have a jacket. So I was just sitting there screaming, and there was this sadistic lady parked not far from us, and she got out of her car and she walked over and she looked at what was going on, and she saw me sitting there screaming, and she snickered, and then she walked away, went into the store. To me personally, it's just like it is so alien to me, a behavior like this, and a mindset like this, that there's no possible way I can ever understand it. I could never understand it emotionally, never understand it in any way. It's like I'm just speculating on the causes of such a behavior, what, the the biological causes of such a behavior. I don't know what it is. No. Different brain anatomy for sure, different soul level and all of this. Utter confusion or speculation. Paul will get mad at me if I say this. He'll say, they're just plain simply bad people. That's what Paul would say. But that's the scientist in me is not happy with that. There's just bad people. Why are they bad? I don't want to make excuses either. I just want to understand what's going on there. What is the mechanism that leads to it, So I'm not happy with with a very generalized reasoning. The reason is you and your grandfather had a personality conflict. Yeah, that's not enough for me to understand why my grandfather treated me the way he did. So breathe, and so anyway, I screamed it out because I didn't have any other choice. So that's my life, and I express it. And I know that Birgit did not express it. And Barbara didn't either. They did not express physically, viscerally. They were just always too good, too kind and too good and too understanding, too accommodating, I would say, for the world. It's good, yes, I do it. I try to do it too. I try to understand other people and put things into perspective. Yes, they're confused and so on. But, when someone is hurting someone else, even if there is this and that reason, and the plain simply mechanical reason, the brain is just, it's like what Gary said it so well, then it still is stupid and retarded and just plain and simply gruesome and unethical. It's still unethical, whether, people in third world countries, whether they're uneducated or not, when they put another living being into the world, it's still an unethical act that is selfish and stupid and retarded. Yeah, that's a fact. Yeah. So people will come up with all kinds of apologism for that, and then sort of hoping that at the end of the day it can be justified in some way, or you need to, they should not get this penalty because they didn't know better, because they were retarded. I don't care. At the end of the day, I don't care. I don't care whether someone is, when it comes to the judicial system, when it comes to putting someone away, putting someone into a psychiatric facility or locking them up for being criminally insane. I mean, they're probably not getting help because the systems are all bad, but they can't be out on the loose if they are doing horrible things. But the majority of the criminals in the world are loose. Some of them are doing their crimes legally because we have a legal system that is criminal in itself, okay? That is highly unethical. I was talking to a woman once where I'm just baffled and head shaking after that conversation, where I was trying to help a sea lion off the shore. He had a fishing net embedded in his neck, was deeply embedded, like this deep, with a festering wound where pus was coming out and it was bleeding. It looked really bad. And he was resting on the docks, and we were filming this with Paul's Zoom camera, and I put it on YouTube. I tried to pull every string I could find. I asked every institution and organization and group and person. Not one person helped. Not one person helped me. So I finally ended up getting Paul Watson's wife, and I don't know how I lucked out getting her on email, and then she hooked the conversation up to two other people, a veterinarian and some other people, and also Paul Watson. But he was not there. He was on a boat at that time, and he only said, they have to be very careful. They have to be so careful when someone contacts them. They don't know who that person is. That could be an infiltrator, that could be, and then the way I worded myself, I sure made myself look bad. I was such a plump clown, but I'll get to that in a moment. But, he has to be careful. So he said, you can't approach that sea lion. If that's an adult male sea lion, you can't approach that animal because that animal can kill you. So he has to be careful with how he expresses that, He also means it. It's also the truth. But of course, we're trying to get a veterinarian. We had this veterinarian. He was willing to help with this. And now we needed permission, we needed permits, we needed wildlife permits in order to do this in the most accurate way possible without making anyone end up going to prison, because they love to imprison kind-hearted people, and they love to let those people who are rapists and murderers free. They don't even bother to. It's nothing. It's their childhood. But hey, an environmentalist approaching an animal to help the animal, no, that's being penalized to the highest extent. That's what I mean with our legal system. So I was in the conversation with this lady who was issuing wildlife permits, because that's the thread which we were hanging on. So these four other people could drop me anytime, with this. So I was doing the legwork. I was talking and calling this and this and this and this person. Got from one person to another. Finally got this lady who had the leverage. And she sure enjoyed that, I could tell. And I made some terrible mistakes in this process. I mentioned Paul Watson's former wife. I mentioned her name, and obviously, and I mentioned the veterinarian's name, and I said these are the people we need the wildlife permits for, and I'm just going to help. I'm going to be an assistant to this, and be great if we can all get a wildlife permit for this. So, and that lady just gave me a tremendously hard time, and I could just feel it. It was so palpable. It was so thick, the pride, her pride, and her sunbathing in this leverage that she was having over the people that she most likely resents, the animal rights people, the environmentalists that she resents. I mean, a real hardcore 150%er Republican redneck kind of lady in such a position of leverage issuing wildlife permits. But hey, if anyone is a hunter or likes to ride his ATV through the dunes, or fisher person, they get the wildlife permit right away. Here, honey, take it. But if we come, the environmentalists, nope, nope, nope. So then, I tried every route I could intellectually. I tried to, I even cried. I said, can you understand that I care? This sea lion with the fishing net embedded, this is horrible. We need to help him. Okay. And she said, yeah, I understand. Well, she doesn't understand shit about it, okay? And she doesn't feel shit about this, okay? So the thing is, she just doesn't give a damn, okay? And that became very clear to me, and I felt like, I will never come to a common ground with this terrible person, and I might just as well hang up, but my inner voice just we have to do what we can do. So I just kept the conversation going, and she said, you don't, that is all against the law, and this is the law, ta 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 ta, you cannot approach a wild animal, but hunters shoot wild animals, but that's okay with her, obviously. But if we want to help, then we can, because then we have to abide by these laws that say you have to stay 500 feet away from the animal or something like this. So she said, the law is what matters. And then I said to her, I don't quite agree with that, because obviously the laws are unethical themselves. And then I brought up Dr. Kohlberg. So Dr. Lawrence Kohlberg, the psychologist, Dr. Lawrence Kohlberg, and what he said about the levels of moral reasoning. And that is when the lady hung up the phone. Okay, and so that's how far I got with trying to help that sea lion. And so this is what we have here right now. Still, that was in 2009, I think, and yeah, I think that was in 2009, and so now we have 2018. And still the same situation, you call NOAA, or you call even the Marine Mammal Center, and they are not going to cooperate. They only do the easy things and then cash in on a lot of donations. So SeaWorld, forget it. I tried all of these. I tried all of them. And the guy from NOAA really acted suspiciously. And the way he was almost shaking. It's like, why are you calling? Who are you? And very, very suspicious. What are these people hiding? Well, that's another entire story about the gray whales in the Klamath River. I'm not going to talk about this now. But that's another scandalous thing that happened. And it's just like one thing after another, one thing after another. But when I ended up not getting the wildlife permits, these other people dropped me. They never wrote back. So that's it. But I tried. At least I tried. And yeah, and I said a bunch of stupid things of like fan, I'm a fan of you, or the way I'm writing, praising them a whole lot. That's already, for a lot of people, that's a red flag right there. When someone says, oh, I agree with you and on everything, and you're so awesome, it's like, who is that infiltrator trying to wrap me around her finger or something? It's like afterwards I was like, oh, darn, I'm just such a clown. with the way I approach people. I get so utterly misunderstood all the time. It's a pity. Breathe, but that's how it is. And I understand, I understand what it means to be overwhelmed. I understand that humanity sucks and that they they want to ruin everything. These selfish assholes, all of those redneck people, selfish, intellectually dishonest jerks. And it's all about self-image. It's all about it's all about unempowered. They feel unempowered, so they think the animal rights people are trying to walk on them like a rug. So they want to get even. Now she had leverage. Now she was like, nah, I'm not gonna give you the wildlife permits. So whatever. So yeah, but that's what we deal with, and that is the status quo. That's the situation here on Earth. That's how it works. So finally, what happened? I don't know if it was that same sea lion, but about 2 months later or 3 months later, I hear the news was on Google News that there was a sea lion, a male large sea lion, just like the one we saw in San Francisco, over there at those boat docks, and people saw it, and they called the same lady I talked to on the phone, who accused me of anthropomorphizing. Yes, that lady, Dr. Dawn, forgot the last name, was in charge of the Marine Mammal Center in San Francisco. And she was the same like that wildlife permit lady, just exactly the same material, the same Republican material, the same snippiness and snottiness and arrogance and coldness, ice cold. Why is someone like this in charge of the Marine Mammal Center? I don't understand. So horrific what I heard from her, about her. So anyway, people started putting pressure on her, and she was the same way with them. She just gave them the cold shoulder. And so slowly more newspapers started to write about this. And why is that lady not helping? Is no one helping? Where's the Marine Mammal Center? So suddenly, oops, now it started to get public. Now she was worried this could cause people not to give donations. So it ended up finally so that suddenly she was able to help. Suddenly it was doable. Before it wasn't, but suddenly it was doable. With enough pressure on the donations that, with the threat, we might withdraw our donations. Then suddenly it's all doable. We can suddenly do it. And they helped. They got him, the sea lion. They put him into the clinic. The vet came, operated that thing out. It healed up. Newspaper covered it. Nice, he looked nicely over their shoulders the whole time, until he was back released. So I hope it was the same one. So I really hope so. I hope that there's not another one suffering out there. So, but yeah, this is how it works. This is how the human minds work. When there's an incentive, like if the money is gonna be withdrawn, then suddenly they get off the couch and do something. So, and I find it despicable. I have no respect for any of these people, any of these right-wing, self-pleased, arrogant, ice-cold people in the world. And obviously, I see them as being confused, you know, looking at from a higher plane. So there's a lot of confusion happening, and someone who is that much into self-image making and self-image and greed also. Greed is huge in humans. So yeah, what can we expect? Yeah, this is how it is. And so I don't blame anyone for getting totally overwhelmed. I've been so terribly overwhelmed. And I have my experience with wanting to leave. I'm not going to get into it now, but I know what it feels like. 100%. I know what it feels like. It's a mix of anger and just giving up, you know, giving up any kind of faith into other people. So that's what it feels like. And the worst part is the giving up the trust in oneself that one can make it through. That's the main part of it. So when we feel so overwhelmed that we think we can make it through this. So when it feels too it feels too monstrous to continue with this. But it is the kind people, the ones that care. Those are the ones they are the ones that need to be here to help. But I don't force them. I understand. I don't force anyone. I understand. Everyone makes the decision they make. It's their decisions, not anyone else's decision. But what a real friend can do is, you know, feel with you and for you, go through this with you, you know, energetically, and say, I'm here for you, 100%. You know? And that's what I say. I'm here for you, 100%. And I am always here for you. And you can always talk to me and always write to me. And I want to meet you one day, you know, if you want that. So, and I love you. You take care.